Hi, I'm Nicole Kemper. I'm a writer, filmmaker, and actor living in Atlanta, Georgia. This is 50 Foot Woman, and I have committed to shooting at least one roll of motion picture film per month. So I really would like to use my Nikon R10, which is a really nice Super 8 camera, to shoot some short films. And you can make a beautiful short film with no dialogue. But I have some things that I'd like to shoot that do have dialogue, and I really wanted to see if I could fake sync sound by recording sound on set, manipulating either the sound or picture in post to synchronize the sound that I've recorded on set with the Super 8 footage, despite the fact that these Super 8 cameras do not have a crystal sync motor. So if you want to know more about that, why I wanted to do that, what my plan was, how I was planning to go about this, I did already do a video about that. So if you just go back, boop, one video, you can see all the details about what my plan was. So this video is about the process and me trying to make that work and seeing if it was going to work. Let's just get right into it. Okay. So I've got my Super 8 footage. I've dropped it into a sequence in Premiere, and now we're gonna begin the process of seeing if we can get this Super 8 footage to sync up with the sound that was recorded on set. Deep breaths. All right, I think my natural inclination is to split these clips up. So ordinarily what I do when I'm syncing picture and sound, I like to put all the clips in a sequence, sync them up in the sequence, and then I'll sort of drag them into another bin, creating a new clip where the sound and picture are now linked. Not sure if this is going to work for this type of thing. We're just going to have to see. But because these clips all kind of come in on one reel, and you can see me there slating. Because these are all on one reel, I'm gonna have to chop them up. So let's find the spot where I slate. And there we go. It's a teeny tiny slate. Okay, so we wanna get right there where the clapper arms meet. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and put a mark in there so that we don't lose our spot. And then here, let's maybe zoom out a little bit here. And we will mark this slate as well. Okay, so mark it in there, and let's just drop it in, see what happens. Okay, so obviously that is really long. So at some point, okay, and there is the tail slate. Okay, so let's start with this first clip. And where's our tail slate? Let's find it. You know, it's not that far off, which is encouraging, because our tail slate is here in the audio, and in the picture it is here. So my plan is, of course, we could stretch, it looks like the audio is a bit longer than the picture. In fact, let's just take a look at what happens. At what point does this start to drag?
Uber's about 3 minutes away. This is my first time using Uber in like 18 months.
So we have two options. We can try to take the audio file and kind of squish it to make it fit so that it'll line up with that tail slate. And of course you can do, you can stretch an audio or shrink it down and maintain the pitch. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the picture first. Okay, so that definitely shifted everything. So that did not work. Let's see what if we try to stretch the audio? Whoa. Okay, so I did the audio, which that's what, so those videos I watched, Filmboy27, that's exactly what he did, is he stretched the audio, and I was like, oh, well, you know, would it work if we did the video? But I guess, you know, honestly, we probably want to keep that video 24-ish frames per second. But I'm going to watch the whole thing through, but right, as of now, it's looking pretty good, and that wasn't too hard, honestly. So let's see how I don't want to get my hopes up, but this is kind of exciting. And then one of you guys can clap for me, and
I'll clap at the end.
you guys ready? Let's
see if
the beginning to sync up, though.
Uber's about 3 minutes away. This is my first time using Uber in like 18 months.
I've never used it before.
Well, I used to be a Lyft guy, but then my identity was stolen through Lyft. Apparently there was like a back door on the app, so I had to put an end to that.
And cut. And I'm gonna cut.
That's pretty good. I mean, I'm gonna blow it up a little bit bigger. Now, I can tell when something is like even a frame off. Like I've gotten to the point where, just from experience, like you can tell. So I right now it's looking really good. I think I need to see it a little bit bigger, just to see if it's good enough. Let's see. So let's use our tilde key to blow that up a bit bigger. And maybe we'll even zoom in a bit on their faces. Sorry. Zoom in a bit on their faces so we can see a little bit more. Let's just see here.
And then one of you guys can clap for me. And
I'll clap at the end.
you guys ready?
Yeah.
And action.
Uber's about 3 minutes away. This is my first time using Uber in like 18 months.
I've never used it before.
Well, I used to be a Lyft guy, but then my identity was stolen through Lyft. Apparently there was like a back door on the app, so I had to put an end to that.
That works. I feel like it works. I think it's again, it'd be interesting to see it blown up to say the size of a movie screen. But also I think it's somewhat helped by the fact that Super 8 is not as like it's grainy, obviously. It's a little grainier than you know, like when you're shooting something in an Ultra HD or something. I'm not saying that the sort of the lack of clarity in the image can completely help you get away with the fact that maybe it's not perfect, but it's helping, certainly. You know, I can see their mouths are moving, the words seem to be matching up. I don't know if I'm just, look, maybe I'm just really excited and I'm really hopeful and I don't know, it looks good to me. Like I can tell when something is out of sync, and I feel like this is good enough that I would be happy cutting this together. Now you can hear the camera in the background, so that's definitely a thing. So one of the things I'm going to be trying to figure out is like, can I get rid of that sound or at least minimize it? Or maybe do I need to add it in the background as just like, I didn't get any room tone. Although I have some takes, I think, where there's like large chunks of time where we're not saying anything. But, you know, maybe with some room tone, we could kind of patch it up or whatever. But so I think what we want to see is, you know, can we sync, now that we've synced it, can we cut it together is the question. Here's what I'm thinking. And I'm just kind of, you know, I'm just kind of improvising. I'm just kind of thinking about thinking this through as I talk. You could, you know, sync everything in like a master and then kind of go in and like individually sort of, you know, keep the clips that you, you know, sort of in the sequences individually. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I feel like you could then duplicate that master and just kind of break it down so that each sequence is only that one clip. Because I feel like, yes, you could cut everything from the master, and that could work if it was a really short piece. But I like to be able to actually see, you know, what's in the clip. You can see here, I'll put it in the thumbnail view and kind of see. You know, I'm from a background of like the traditional structure where you're like, you sync it, you give them all a name, and you can see all the take numbers and stuff in a bin. And I feel like for my own sanity, I would need that, you know? So while I think it would take a bit more time to separate out the individual clips, ultimately I feel like having everything organized and being able to see, you know, which clips are which, being able to look at the thumbnails and scrub through them and see like what's the content of each shot. It would just, I think once I had it all organized, the edit would personally go much faster for me, and I wouldn't be worried that I'm missing a shot or overlooking something. Now, the question is, could I then cut this into a scene? I'm going to call this Identity Crisis because that is the jokes they were kind of going with were about identity theft. So I'm just gonna do that. Okay, so let's say we had this fresh new sequence. Here's my master shot. So I just drag that in and we decide, okay, we're gonna use this part.
Uber's about 3 minutes away. This is my first time using Uber in like 18 months.
Okay, so that seems to be working. Let's try the close-up. Okay, and then we just splice that into the timeline. Okay, and then we can just go right back to this other one because we've already got it here in the source monitor. And let's see if I can
use those fucking scooters all over town. And I'm seeing so many charges on my bank statement from Lyft, from renting the Lyft scooters. And that was the moment I realized my identity was stolen. I don't ride these scooters everywhere. I have a bicycle, for crying out loud. Well, I used to be a Lyft guy, but then my identity was stolen through Lyft.
So I think we can conclude that it is possible to cut this together. In terms of the technical challenge that we're trying to accomplish, which is, can I cut multiple different takes together? Can I cut different coverage together? Can I cut from the wide shot back to the close-up and have everything stay in sync? I think the answer is yes. Does it take more work than your traditional workflow where you've got a camera that has sync sound in it, like Crystal Sync? Absolutely. This is going to take more work because you've got to sync everything and kind of fudge it around with the rate stretch tool. Obviously, separating out all the clips, the process for that is a little bit different. But I think ultimately the answer is we've developed a workflow that, generally speaking, will work, and that I feel at this point I have enough information that I would be comfortable experimenting with this in a situation where I'm actually shooting a short film. I'd probably stick to something really short, like maybe 3 to 5 minutes max. I'm not saying that you couldn't do a longer piece this way, but I think I know that there will be other challenges that I will only discover through the process of editing a short film this way. And so I'd like to start out with like something tiny, little 3 to 5 minute guy, rather than something really long. Okay, so to sum up, did it work? Can you record sound on set while you're recording Super 8 footage and sync it up in post? I think the answer is yes, depending on the conditions. So again, just to remind you, I am using a Super 8 camera that does have an electronic motor. So I am not using a wind-up camera. I think that those would probably give you a little bit more of a challenge. So the electronic motor, at least this one, seems to be running pretty consistently, even though it's not running at an exact consistent 24 frames per second. I also had the camera running, so I didn't hold down the trigger while I was shooting. I set the camera to run because I felt like if my finger came on and off the trigger in any way, that it would make the speed more inconsistent. So I did also set the camera to run, and so that was another thing that I did on set. And of course, I did slate the beginning and the end, which is something that I picked up from Filmboy24, who also did a lot of experiments trying to sync picture and sound with Super 8 cameras. And so I picked that up from him. So doing all that on set, can we sync it in post? Yes, we can. Is it a little extra work? Yes, I think so. Is it worth it? I think yes, so far. If you're wanting to, if you love Super 8 and you're wanting to try to shoot some stuff with some sync sound, I think that depending on how much you're willing to put in on the back end and post, I think you can make it work. So far, it seems to me that at least these initial tests indicate that it's possible. Is it something that I would attempt with a short film of my own? Yeah, I think so. In fact, I think I am going to try that. I think that it is manageable with the right workflow, and I do think it's worth it. If you love Super 8 and you want to shoot a scene that has some dialogue, I think that it looks better to me than bringing actors in after the fact to do ADR. So what are my reflections on this experience? I'm actually really happy with the result. I feel pretty good about it. I think that I'm ready to try it with something scripted and a little bit more structured. As far as like the minimum amount of people that I think would be needed for something like this, certainly I'm used to, directing films on a set where you've got camera department and you've got a gaffer and you've got grips and you've got this boom operator and production designer. So I don't work with really, really large crews. I like to keep it somewhere between like 15 people is a comfortable amount of crew for me, for my films. But I think for something like this, you can really, really make it small if you want to. I don't think it's ideal to do it with just one person. So my recommendation would be to have at least one person to operate the camera, whether that's you or whether that's somebody operating the camera and you're just, directing. At least one person to operate the camera. I think you need at least an AC who can slate, because turning the camera on and then running in front of the camera and slating is like such a waste of film. Oof, what a waste of film. So somebody to slate and assist the camera operator and to pay attention to how much footage is left. Like when I'm looking through the camera, I'm not looking at the footage counter on the side. So I definitely think that maybe that person could also be taking script notes. If you're inside, obviously like someone to light it, so like some kind of gaffer or someone with some experience of lighting. Certainly, if you had a really, really small team and you and the camera operator, or maybe you and the AC, maybe you're like doubling up and you guys are setting up the lights as well. But so I think the minimum is camera operator and AC. If you're shooting inside and you're gonna have to light a lot, which it's film, so you're gonna have to like you're really gonna have to light that. You're gonna have to light it. It's not like we can't just kick up that ISO like we can on a digital camera. So you may want to consider bringing in somebody to handle just the lighting. Definitely somebody to deal with the sound. So of course I had all the actors mic'd up with these the Bluetooth sort of. I'm calling it a lavalier, but really it's like a recorder with a microphone attached. There's no receiver. I talked about this in the other videos. If you want to know more about the type of mic that I used, you can watch the other video. But I had all the actors mic'd up with their own lavaliers essentially. But still, I think it would be good to have somebody, turning those mics on and off, monitoring them, and having somebody to operate a boom. So someone to deal with the sound, someone to run the camera, someone to assist the person running the camera. I think that's the minimum. Of course, yeah, you could always throw in a gaffer, like I said, or someone to do production design, or hopefully somebody to order everybody like lunch and snacks. So I think you could run it with like, how many people is that? I don't know, like a 5-person crew, minimum 3. And then if you want to like bump it up to a little bit more hands on deck, maybe something like 5. But yeah, I think you could run it with 3 people. But that is to say, overall, it was a good experiment. I had a good time, and I think I'm ready to take this to the next step. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel and continue with me on this journey as I try to take this experiment a little bit further into maybe even shooting a short film with it. Not maybe, I think that's definitely what the next step is gonna be. So if you wanna see how it turns out, then come back and stick with us. I also have a blog on Substack where I share more about my still photography journey that I'm also on. So I post these videos, but I also have sort of diary entries, I guess, a little bit about the photography, still photography. At some point I'm gonna be getting into home developing, I think. And I also share some of my stills and photo walks and things like that. So if you're looking for more, the link to my Substack is in the description of this video. So I guess the thing that we can take away from this, or at least that I'm taking away from it, is don't be afraid to try something that seems like it might not work, especially when there are all these great resources out there of other people who have tried all kinds of crazy things. We're all doing our best, I think, to have a good time, try out new things, push the boundaries of this format, and all of these experiments are worthwhile even when they don't work out. So just get out there, do something weird, and let's shoot more film, you guys.